Hi there, and welcome back to the Nourished Nutrition Business series. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the 10 things that basically keep you from being successful in your business. And what you're going to notice is all of them are related to mindset. This is the biggest factor that stops people from getting ahead in any area of their life, essentially, right? Because we all have unlimited potential, but it's basically how we perceive ourselves and how we perceive reality that's going to determine whether or not we are successful, right? Because you do see many people out there who are super successful, and it seems like they don't, have any more intelligence or talent or higher level of expertise than you do. So why is it that they are thriving and you are struggling? And it really comes down to mindset. And a lot of it is mindset that actually you would have picked up when you were a child from your parents, from society. There's a lot of unconscious and subconscious programming that we all have experienced that actually drives our lives. So as now an adult, you actually have to conscientiously reprogram your mind in order to transcend these particular mindsets and feelings that stop you before you really get started. Okay, so I'm just going to check my little handout here just to make sure that I don't miss anything. So if I'm looking away, that's what I'm doing. So number one is that you don't have clarity. Okay. And when you don't have clarity, it makes you feel really unorganized, and it makes it so that you spend a lot of the time doing things in your work or in your business that are actually busy work and don't translate into helping people or making money. And so you feel like you're working, and really not accomplishing anything of value. And then you start to question yourself and second guess, okay? And this really comes from a lack of clarity. And one of the reasons why you're having a lack of clarity is because it's partly your subconscious programming trying to keep you from doing what needs to be done so that you can actually have the business and life that you love. And it's because the subconscious mind is afraid of change. It feels very safe when everything stays the same, right? So what it'll do is it'll create confusion so that you do not move forward. Okay, so clarity often comes in connection with others, having somebody else's insight into your life. Now, not going to people that are your family, for example. When it comes to business, it's not a good idea to look to people who also have the same programming as you do, because they'll actually just tell you things that don't work, and that will keep you held back. So you need to actually connect with other people who are elevating themselves, who are working on their mindset, and who are creating a different kind of experience in their life. Okay, so part of the process of gaining clarity is actually just stepping forward despite feeling confused and taking action. And often what happens is, well, you probably heard that saying, when you when a door closes, another opens, etc. So as you move forward, you will experiment with things and be like, okay, well, that worked for me and that didn't. And now you close the door on something that didn't work, and that gives you more clarity moving forward. But for most people, because they don't have the clarity and they feel so overwhelmed and disorganized, they never move forward. They don't try anything new, and therefore they don't actually get any clarity because nothing's changing, right? They're just staying in their comfort zone. Okay, so, really getting that you don't need to have everything figured out to get started. You just have to change your mindset about being disorganized and about having a lack of clarity. And, it's not that you don't acknowledge that you're experiencing that, but you just don't let that stop you from actually taking action and moving forward. Okay. So it's a faith thing, essentially, right? The next thing is that you probably feel overwhelmed with what you learned in school, okay? And you just don't know how to apply it, right? You're thinking, okay, I just learned a whole bunch of intellectual things, and I don't know how to actually translate that information to my clients to help them get results. Because it was so intellectual and not application, right? Like most holistic nutrition schools do not provide a teaching kitchen, for example, where you will actually implement hands-on the act of cooking food, or eating food or doing food prep or organizing yourself around, making the right decisions around food. And you've learned a whole bunch of different theories. You've learned a whole bunch of different diets and different approaches. And you feel like, I don't know what do I choose for each client, right? Even if you have a good system of assessment, for example, you would still you have to use your own intuition and logic to know what to do with each client, right? And that is hard for people, right? Because we've been raised in a society that we go to get a degree or a certification, and at the end we're deemed capable by society's standards, okay, and we're provided like a path, a job for that, right? Whereas for health coaches and holistic nutritionists, you're not actually given any opportunity to practice with people, right? You just learn all the intellectual stuff, and then you don't get that same validation that you get from, say, having a degree, for example. So you have this feeling like you're not validated, right? Or that you can't figure out how to actually apply it, so you lack confidence. And that's like a major, major issue, right? Especially if you've gone through your whole entire life needing somebody else to give you approval before you take action, right? Like that's really difficult for people to not have somebody else say, okay, you're ready, right? Like you would if you had gone and say gotten a degree in nutrition, right? Say if you became a dietitian, society values and validates that. So you choosing to be a health coach or a holistic nutritionist, choosing a field that the majority of society is unconscious to the fact that they can actually take control of their health, and that their health is their responsibility, not the doctor's, and that health does not come in a pill, etc. In a sense, we're moving against the stream, right? So you have to be a very strong person, or you have to decide now that you're going to be a really strong person because you care enough to take a stand for what you know is right and true. Okay. So right now, what you need is essentially to take what you've learned and apply it in your own life. Okay. When you do that, you actually embody what you learned. So right now, you're feeling confused about how you're going to translate it into others because you haven't applied it enough in your own life. Okay, so this is just, again, a commitment that you have to make to actually study all the time, right? Now, you don't need more education. Okay, you don't need to get another certification. You don't need to go, get, any other kind of training, right? There's this concept of the shiny object syndrome, right? A lot of people struggle with it in business. They think that another training is going to give them what they need when they've already gotten what they need. They just haven't applied it because of all these mindset things, right? So same with your schooling. You learned a lot of things, and because you haven't applied them, then you feel like, oh, I don't know enough, so I need to get more intellectual stuff and stick that in my head. If you right now don't think you can apply what you've learned because you're feeling overwhelmed because it was too intellectual and not enough application, how much worse is it going to be if you take another training in nutrition or in another modality, right? It's going to be even worse. Seriously, you need to commit to the path you're already on and embody what you've learned. So you apply it in your own life, okay? That's the only way that you can do it. Once you have applied that in your life, you're going to gain more confidence because you have, when you know something intellectually, it's, you might learn something and then you remember what you need to do to help a client, but you can't explain why what you're doing will help them, right? But if you've actually learned it through embodying the action, it's going to be a lot, because you have like a context in which you learned it, you're going to know it at a deeper level and be able to understand why it worked and how it can help people. And it's really important that you know what you're talking about so that you actually can inspire people and motivate them to do what you ask them to. Because like you and like me, they don't want to do things that they don't understand, right? Like they need to understand why what you're asking them to do works, okay? So you don't need another certification to find that out. You just need to focus down on an area that you're passionate about, right? Choosing what would be called a niche and a specific result-based problem that you solve, and go deep in that area so that you really know that area well, right? You can't be, somebody that does a little bit of everything. You're never going to feel, if you're trying to do that in your practice, you're always going to feel like you don't know enough. You're always going to feel disorganized and overwhelmed. So it's accepting that so-called specializing in something, even though we don't like that concept as holistic nutritionists, right? Because that's how the medical system is set up. It's set up with specialties, right? So if you have this part of your body has an issue and you talk to the endocrine doctor and, you have a digestive issue, then he sends you to the digestion specialist, right? And that obviously is not going to actually solve the problem holistically at the level of root cause. That's to isolate organs, right? And we don't do that. And we're happy about that. And we don't want to be specialists in that way. But you have to understand that you can specialize in a certain area with a certain person's specific type of health problem. But what you're actually doing process-wise with the person to actually support them to heal at the level of root cause is still as a holistic approach at looking at all the organ systems and how you can get them back in homeostasis, working synergistically, right? So it's not, to choose to specialize as a holistic nutritionist is not adopting the medical model. So it's really important to get clear about that, but you're always going to feel like you don't know enough if you do not decide to focus on something. Okay. So it's just making a decision that you're going to find something. My way of looking at it is you choose either something that you've struggled with yourself or something that you're super passionate about and you can't imagine not being excited about moving forward in the future because you're so interested in it, right? And that interest is what's going to drive you to study it. So you should have a book beside your bed table every day, because you should be reading experts who've written books on the topic that you specialize in. Okay. Once you've read all their books, you're an expert, right? Because you know all the different perspectives that there are available. And then you can take that information and now can keep the best of the best, throw away what is shown not to be effective or doesn't resonate with you or what you think would work with your clients. And then you create your own program, right? So essentially, I'll be talking more about that in the upcoming videos. All right, so number 3, the next thing is you have no experience, right? Because you're just getting started, or you've been graduated for a while, but because you've been stuck in all these emotions, you haven't got started. So you might even be feeling worse than somebody who just graduated, right? Because at least for them, everything's fresh in their mind. But maybe you've been like slowly trying to make a business, but not getting anywhere. And then you're like starting to forget things. And now you're really worried, like, oh my God, how could I help people? Okay. What you have to recognize is that you're never going to experience confidence unless you actually have experience working for people. Okay. So to tell yourself that you can't do it because you don't have experience is like what comes before the chicken or the egg. You're always going to be stuck with that and never going to be able to move forward. And basically what that is perfection paralysis. You think you have to know everything before you can help somebody. And that is basically stopping you from being able to help anyone. It's also stopping the right people that need you to give them the information and message. You're stopping them from getting the help, right? So it's really about being willing to take risks. So making it more important that you become successful at this work and help people along the way than to be seen as somebody who's got it all figured out from the beginning and perfect. Nobody does, right? Like we all, we never get to a place where we know everything. Okay. We all have, every person that you think is like amazing at what they do. And you're like amazed by their programs. You watch them on Facebook, or you take their programs or you read their books and you're just like, wow, this person is like amazing. And you don't see yourself as being where they are. And because you see them, you compare yourself to them and you think like, I don't deserve to help people because I'm not as good as they are. Right. So, that will really keep you stopped. But the truth is that they used to be in your shoes. There was a day when they had absolutely no experience helping anyone and they had to go out and get their first client too. So the difference between them and you is that they were willing to risk looking foolish for their cause, for their decision to be successful, for the decision to help people. Okay. And that's essentially what you need to do, is make a decision that it matters more to you that you help people and learn what you need to learn so that you become more adept and more effective in your work moving forward, than to sit here where you're at thinking that you have to be perfect and not wanting someone to see that you're not perfect or that you don't know everything, to protect yourself. And in protection mode, we don't grow, right? When we're trying to protect ourselves, we just, right? You do this, and you do that energetically too, right? So that's not very client attractive. People actually can see that and feel like, even if they don't see it, they feel it energetically, and they're not attracted to working with you. Okay, so you just have to like open up to the acceptance that you will have failures. You will not know things. You may even feel embarrassed. You may get questioned by somebody and not know the answer. Okay, but it's just accepting that that's a process. Here's the beautiful thing, right? Because it's really, the reason that it's hard for you is not because there's something wrong with you versus that so-called courageous or brave person that's moved through that already. We all face that, right? They have also experienced that feeling of being afraid to be seen as not knowing the answer. Here's the thing, you just have to, that's a new mindset you have to take on. You have to say, I'm looking forward to finding out where I'm wrong. Okay. Because that is going to educate you. And then you're going to know more, and you're never going to have to face the fear of being wrong about that thing again. Okay. And, remember that the knowledge is never static. What we think is true now is not necessarily true in the future, because we don't have all the information, right? Like vitamins didn't even exist in our minds until 1911. They weren't discovered. Okay. So when we looked at food before 1911, we weren't even considering vitamins, and somehow we made it. Humanity survived till now. It's 2017 at the time of this recording. And oh my God, look at that. We somehow got here without knowledge of vitamins. Okay. How did we do that? There's just so much to know. The fact that anybody thinks that they're, right about something, like an ultimate truth, it's not. And it's just really accepting that, it's okay for you to not know everything. And the more comfortable you get with that, the less this is going to be an issue for you, right? And what happens is the more you're afraid of somebody calling you out for telling something that's wrong, okay, or not having all the information, it's really just like, a feeling of being insecure, okay? And that's just something you want to work on, right? Like the whole thing about the running a business is that, like, essentially it's like a spiritual practice, right? Because it's going to bring up all of the areas that are in your life that are needing to be bring up to be healed, essentially, right? So it's going to show you where you are stuck in perfection paralysis. It's going to show you where you're, needing approval from others, right? Like some of you can't take action in your business because you need somebody to coddle you and give you approval for every step before you're willing to take another step, right? This is a personality thing that it's not true to your soul. It's just what you've learned, right? So all of these things need to be brought up. So the obstacles for you being successful in business are all emotional, right? So just decide now that you are going to give yourself approval, that you don't need to know everything to be a good person. And it doesn't make you a bad person just because you don't know the answer to something, okay? And the more you let go of that need for approval, the less you're actually going to attract situations in your life where somebody shows you that they think you're wrong, okay? A lot of people are afraid to post their opinion about things, right? Especially because they know what the mainstream opinion is, and they don't want to be faced with like one of those like internet fights, right? Like the feeds that go on different topics, like say vaccinations, for example, that's a huge one that most people don't want to touch because people get so emotionally heated on it. And like the truth is that there are so many different angles to talk about with that it's actually impossible to, in a situation like that, determine like what the truth is, right? Because you have to look at something from a systemic perspective. You have to think in systems to actually find the truth. And most of the people that will be so-called arguing against your point of view don't think in systems, right? They have been taught how to think in a more reductionist type of way, right? That's how our universities teach. They don't teach holistic perspective, right? That's why, because everything is separated. So all the different fields that have knowledge, their knowledge isn't brought to the table together. When you see things in a system, you see the bigger picture, and now you actually come to a different conclusion, right? But if you just see something in isolation, or you're reducing it down to its parts instead of seeing it in relationship to the whole, you're going to come to different conclusions. And other people who are validated by those systems are just going to assume they're right and be powerful in their delivery of their rightness, right? Because they have more confidence, because the world is patting them on the back, right? So that's why you, as somebody who doesn't have that luxury, right? Like when you walk down the street and if you told somebody, you're a health coach or a holistic nutritionist, they wouldn't know what you do, and they wouldn't know how you were educated, and they may even question that, right? So you literally have to be really strong to do this work, right? Like this is like, we are at the forefront of a new paradigm moving into, like for example, the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, their thing is teaching the medicine of the future, right? That is a bold statement, right? It's a bold statement. And so whoever it was that created the school, had to like step out and risk being persecuted by making that statement. Okay. Because there's going to be a lot of people who would hear that and think and laugh or scoff at it. Right. Because most of the trainings in holistic nutrition, health coaching, etc., are not even longer than a year long. Right. And because our system values and actually has a structure for education as being then like, a box of, you have to have a 4-year training for it to be valid, right? Most people are going to scoff. Ones that require, ones who are stuck on the idea of that the only kind of education that's validated is the kind that comes from a university, right? But don't worry, your clients who are suffering do not care about that, because they've already gone to those people. They've already gone to the medical paradigm and have had nothing for them, because they don't work in the realm of actual healing and prevention, right? So when you're worried about being wrong and having people tell you that, or call you out on it, or question your credentials, etc., you're actually holding in mind you're holding in mind that what you're about to put out there is not for the people that it's going to serve. You're holding in mind that it's for people, or that you're just thinking about yourself, right? Essentially like, oh my God, how am I going to be received if I do this? And then you start, because the mind has a tendency towards negativity, you start pulling in the awareness and the noticing, like for the people that would question you and don't like what you say and disagree with you, you're actually you're going to like wake them up to your post, essentially, because of the vibe and the feeling you're putting out there and what you're thinking, what you're holding in mind. So when you're doing the work, you have to be thinking about the people who want it, right? Who already have a higher consciousness, and that recognize that just because somebody has a specific degree or credentials in the mainstream, that is not what they personally resonate with, and that they are looking for something more holistic. Okay. So you got to hold in mind the people that you're serving, not the critics that you're afraid of who are going to attack you, right? Because you can see one is focusing on fear and worrying about yourself, and the other is being courageous and willing to stand up to say what needs to be said to make sure that other people can get properly educated so that they can take their health into their own hands, right? Totally different perspective. All right. So like the next one, I've gone a little bit over all over the place, but Number 4, okay, so is afraid that you don't know enough. So I've talked a lot about that, but I've talked about it more in the sense of like visibility and all that kind of stuff. But you're afraid that you might make a mistake or offer the wrong advice to your clients, okay? Or just not know how to help them, right? Like, is it scary to think of charging somebody a lot of money for a service and maybe you don't know what you actually need to do to help them get the results, and then they don't get the results? Isn't that your worst fear as a nutritionist, right? Like, let's just, speak to the elephant in the room and like talk about, what's really there. Because if we have negative feelings, limiting mindsets, and we aren't conscious of them, we can't change them. So let's just acknowledge that it's there, which is one of the first steps to letting it go, right? Here's how I deal with this. Okay. So you may wonder like, okay, Sherry, yeah, but you're a teacher at Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. You graduated when, like Jasmine, she was like 2006. You graduated from your first holistic nutrition training in 2006, and you've been helping people ever since then. Like, what would you know about like how it feels to be afraid that you might not know the answer? Okay. I do not come into program with a client thinking I know all the answers. Okay. In fact, I think that you may be missing what really happens here when it comes to healing. If you think that you should know what you're going to have to do to get a person results specifically before you work with them. Okay. Because every single person is an individual, and what works for one person does not work for another. So there may be a very specific path, for example, that helps a person with something. So let's look at something like allergies, right? So the specific path for healing food sensitivities is to do a leaky gut diet, right? Okay, now if you look out there, there's a lot of different leaky gut diets out there. So, then you have to choose which one, etc. The person's healing path is not just about the diet, right? There's multiple factors and layers of things that are going on for that person. So you actually need to step into your session from a place of knowing nothing. Okay, if you can honestly step forward into that like open spaciousness to just be present to the client and what's going to come up, then you get to actually download the answers, right? From however you want to describe it, the collective unconscious from God, okay? But if you think you know all the answers already, that's your ego, okay? That's your brain, and it only has a limited amount of information in it, right? If the answers are in it, they're in it. If they're not there, well, where are you going to go next, right? If you don't know, where do you go next, okay? So here's how I deal with that. I basically trust that if a client comes to me, then they were attracted to me for a reason, because their soul, my soul, and the creator know that together I'm going to be open to be see the signs, okay, to intuitively know what to do next in combination with that client, right? Because you see the client as an equal in the process. So you equally are listening to what they think the issue is, right? And what they're saying. It's not just about a specific diet. Okay. So this has happened to me in many times in my practice where I do not know what the next step is for somebody because I've already exhausted what I intellectually think would be the right approach. Okay. And I swear to you, every single time, what happens is some sort of synchronicity where I become aware of something that I was not aware of. And that's how I learn. And then I never forget it, right? Because I actually went through an experience where I didn't know the answer, and then the answer came to me, and then I applied it in my practice with my client and then got results. I'm never going to forget it. Okay. That is literally taking, seeing your work as more than just like a structural kind of physical thing, right? Like, oh, diet, exercise, lifestyle, blah, blah, blah. But trusting that like this, the whole relationship that you have with your clients is like it's a God-ordained experience of you being a mentor to them to support them while they heal themselves, right? They heal themselves. You're not the healer, okay? So you don't put that expectation on yourself, number one, and you put your faith in God or the universe or however you want to say it, to give you the answers. And then at the end of the day, you also don't take credit for the healing, right? because you know that it was their vital force that did the work in their body. So it's not up to you to know everything before you get into a session with a client, okay? And here's the thing, if you do not step forward in faith, you're not gonna get the answers, right? So you may be thinking, oh, I don't have the experience, I'm scared to take on a client, what if I don't know the answer? But you're never gonna get the answer because you don't need it yet, right? God is not going to come down and give you all the answers for how to heal somebody because you haven't even taken the first step in faith. So you don't have a client, you don't need to know, right? People get really confused thinking that the how is going to be revealed first. No, you're going to take the step forward in faith, and then the next step is going to be revealed to you. Then you're going to implement that. Then the next step is going to be revealed to you, etc. Okay? So I'm not saying that you're not going to use your intellect and logic in your practice, but I'm saying when you get stuck, it's that point where you have fear. What if I don't know? That's the point where your connection to your intuition and to the creator and to that person all comes together in synergy, and the synchronicities happen and the answers become apparent. Okay? So just letting that go. You don't need to know everything. You shouldn't actually feel like you know everything. You know, the moment you think you know everything is, you know, when you've sort of hit some sort of block in your personal growth, and you're, you know, stuck in the ego. Essentially, we all continue to learn as we go, right? Like, I don't know what kind of conversation I'm going to be having about health in 20 years from now, right? Because there's going to be so much new knowledge, right? Like even, let's see, 10 years ago, the concept of eating cultured foods wasn't even a thing. People knew about gut flora and they took probiotics, but that's it, right? It was not mainstream to drink kombucha or kefir or buy sauerkraut that wasn't pasteurized at the health food store. But that's made such a huge difference in people's health, right? So you just have to work with what you have and trust that what you need to know will be revealed to you in the perfect timing. Okay, so the next thing is number 5. Your health is not perfect, so you feel like a fraud. Okay, your health can never be perfect, but it can always be improving, right? You don't even know what perfect is, honestly. Okay, so you have, and same with your client, right? So what you want to aim for is that your health is always improving. So can you be healthier today than you were yesterday, right? If you're healthier than your client, then you're ahead of them and you can help them get to where you are. And as you continue to work on yourself, you get that much more healthy, and then you can bring people to that level of health, okay? So you have to let that go, okay? Because the more that you use that as an excuse and you're not living your life purpose, you're going to be actually having you're going to have a tendency to do things that are not good for you, right? Because you're not on your life path. So when you step powerfully into your role as a teacher and nutritionist who is role modeling for others, it's going to actually help you to take action in alignment with better health, right? Because you're an example. So use it not as the reason to stop you from helping people, but use helping people as your own fuel to do what you need to do, right? It's kind of like one of those things like moms will experience this, like when you're pregnant, you, because you have this extra baby, right? It's not just you're taking care of the baby, so that motivates you. You can use your business, your practice, and your clients as, you know, that baby that motivates you to take better care of yourself, essentially. Okay. And another thing might help is that, you know, in your business, as you go forward and thinking about the marketing part of it, there's a couple sayings that will help you to remember this. Your mess is your message. Okay. So where you've struggled and then overcome something is a wonderful story that engages people and is memorable and connects them to you so that they will actually trust you and want to work with you. And your test in life is your testimony. Okay. Sort of the same way of saying the same thing. What you've been tested in your life and overcome allows you to give testimony to how, you know, whatever you did to heal yourself can help others, and it increases their faith because you've done it, right? So then they feel like they can do it too. So it's actually good when you've struggled with something, because if people relate to you as this perfect person, they're not going to feel like they can have the results that you have because they think you are perfectly self-disciplined, right? And they think of themselves as, oh no, I can't do it, right? So having some struggles is a good thing. So number 6 is feeling like your credentials are not validated. And I already actually talked about this naturally when I was talking about experience. So But just to talk about like what is actually important when it comes to credentials. The clients that you can serve have already exhausted the medical field, okay? They know that that doesn't work, and they are not like, well, let's just be honest here. What do you get when you go to a doctor? You get either a diagnosis, drugs, or surgery. How much dietary advice do you get from a person who's had 2 to 6 hours of optional nutrition training in their 8 years of education? Not much. So they've already exhausted that route. They already have a diagnosis. They don't want drugs and they don't want surgery. That's why they're coming to you. So they don't care. They don't care that you don't have the degree behind your name. All they care about is, especially, have you actually gone through what I've gone through? That they care more about. Even your certification as a holistic nutritionist, they don't care about, honestly. Okay, there's many women out there I've seen on the internet who have healed themselves of different health challenges, who have a nutrition practice based around helping people with that thing, even though they've never gone to holistic nutrition school. Are they validated? Damn right they're validated, because they healed themselves and they study that subject every day and they're passionate about it. I'm going to go to them over somebody who has a certification but has not focused down on anything and doesn't have a story. Okay, so just let that go. This idea of validation. Okay, all they care about is your vibe. Like, do you feel like that? Do they feel like they can connect with you, be themselves, speak their truth, be comfortable? Do they feel like you care about them? Okay, that's what they care about. Okay, and they care about that you have a service that is based on helping them with their unique situation. Okay, and in upcoming videos, I'm going to share with you about how to do that. Okay. And like people are, they are less critical than you think. Okay, it's just when you have perfection paralysis and you're critical of yourself and you have high expectations of yourself and others that are like excessive, is when you imagine that everyone else in the world has that, right? But they don't. They're more forgiving than you would imagine, and they make decisions based on their gut. They make decisions based on their feelings, okay? So all you have to do is actually be somebody who is loving and cares and who's willing to do the work of creating a program and a business that's set up, designed to help people with their specific issue that you solve, okay, that's designed for them. Right? When you do that, then they know that you are serious and you actually care. You're not just willy-nilly flying by the seat of your pants kind of thing. Then they have the confidence in you. Okay. And again, a lot of it's feelings, right? When you feel that you are, you're doing the best that you can, and that you are passionate about what you do, and you're committed to helping them, and you are coming from a place of love, they will feel that. And that's the most important thing. That's way more important than any credentials. Okay. Number 7, you're afraid to be visible and seen as a marketer. Okay. This is a major thing. I mean, we are programmed in this society to hate marketing, okay? Because it's been used in such a negative way, right? Like, we've all been exposed to situations in which somebody made us feel uncomfortable, trying to get us to do something, or in a sales kind of way, or like we've seen like ads out there that are questionable in terms of what's the word? I want to say morality, but it's not that. It's just that like there's lies, right? Lies that come in marketing. So now we've taken the act of marketing and associated it with something that's negative. And so now we don't want to be seen as that markety, salesy kind of person, right? So now every time we go to share something, we feel worried, again, because we're trying to avoid disapproval, that other people are going to judge us. And again, because our need for approval is so strong, then it stops us from actually getting the education out there that's going to actually help people to have a mindset change so that they're ready to do the work with us, right? So instead of thinking of marketing as something that is a bad thing, just put it in a different context. It's a mindset shift. First of all, do not see yourself as a marketer, because you're not a marketer. You are a holistic nutritionist or a health coach, okay? So essentially what you are is a mentor and a teacher to people. So when you go to put something out there on social media, for example, or write a blog post, you have to come, like, literally embody that state of being a teacher or being a mentor, or however you self-identify that is not a marketer. And then when you write from there or you speak from there, then you are going to deliver the message in the authentic way. And then you're not going to feel weird about it or bad about it, right? Like, for example, right now, you are in a free video series that is then designed to market my Nourished Nutrition Business program, right? But am I doing something harmful to you by giving you this information? No, I'm edutaining you, right? I'm giving you a taste of what it is I offer, my approach, so you can confidently make a decision about whether or not I'm going to be the right mentor for you, right? And you can totally feel that. It's a feeling thing. And I've been responsible enough to create this in order to help you make that decision, right? I'm not just sitting there being lazy and going, I don't feel like it. They should just buy this program. Why don't they get that? I'll just throw up a sales page and put it in front of their face, right? That's being marketing, okay? But choosing to edutain people, so educate them and entertain them, essentially, right? Anything that's like a video is kind of entertaining. It's a little bit easier to take than, if I had written all this and you had to read about it, right? So just looking at marketing as education. And when you look at it in that way, and it's kind to market, because you are giving people an opportunity to taste test before they buy. So when you go and get some gelato, do you feel offended that you get to taste test the ones before you choose? No, you're thankful for that, right? That's like being kind. It's being generous. So marketing is being generous with your audience, so you can help them to make a decision. Don't you want them to be confident in your program and in you as a person, that energetically they feel like they resonate with you, so that they are going to be satisfied doing the work, right? Did I get an example of it? I think that's really, really important. Okay? So think about marketing as being kind. If you choose not to market, you're not being kind. Okay. Okay, so the next one is number 8. You're afraid to talk about the money part of offering your services. Okay. So again, you have to put, because this is a conversation about sales, you have to put sales in a conversation that is different than the one you're having in your mind right now. So right now you're probably thinking, when I have a sales conversation with somebody, I'm harming them in some way, because I'm asking them for money. I'm saying, can you give me your money, right? That's the only thing that could be going through your mind right now, if you are afraid of sales, okay, or uncomfortable with sales, is you're focusing on money and not serving, right? So again, with marketing, you're focusing on, again, getting the sale or getting somebody to buy instead of your message, right? Which is the edutainment. The message is what changes their paradigm, so that they are actually able to take advantage of the teaching that you have and actually implement it in their life. Without the message that comes from marketing, they would never learn what they need to know to be ready to change their lives, right? So same with sales. Here's the context you have to put sales in. Sales, again, is an opportunity for people to get clear on what they desire to have in their life, what the obstacles are that are standing in their way, and to finally just say yes to getting the support that they need to solve the problem in their life, right? Again, if you're not willing to have a sales conversation with somebody about that, it's being selfish, right? Because you're not serving them in helping them come to a place of clarity so they can make a confident decision to move forward with you, right? And you're helping them make a decision. You're helping them see that they're not a victim, right? Because they can say no to it. And they're saying no. Like, people have, reasons why they say no to things. When you're in a state of personal lack yourself, you're going to assume it's all about money. But actually, there's a lot of reasons that people will say no to things. And you actually having this conversation with them is an opportunity for them to get a breakthrough and not let that same excuse stop them from moving forward and getting the results that they have. They have been suffering with this thing for a long time. They have not been able to figure out how to solve it on their own, and they need some sort of support. So you having a sales conversation with them so that they can make a confident decision to get that help and invest in themselves, right? Using money to invest in themselves, right? They're out there spending money on stuff instead of on their own personal growth and their own health, right? Like, people have no trouble throwing $80,000 on a car, okay? Or, a couple $1,000s on a big screen TV. Are those things more important than their health? No, obviously not, right? Because if you don't have optimal health, how are you going to really enjoy all those things? So, it's partly about you valuing the transformation that you provide in people's lives, and not taking that excuse of not having enough money as a reason for people not to take action, right? So you have to be that person who can stand there and help them see that if they say no to the transformation, that's their decision. They don't have to be a victim to it, because they are choosing instead to invest in stuff instead of their own well-being, right? So that the point of a sales conversation is not to make them be your client. The point of the conversation is to have them get to a decision place so they can say yes or no to it. You want somebody to be 100% in a yes mode to work with you, because you're not going to be able to get people who are not in that yes mode. You're not going to be able to get them results because they're not committed and they're not motivated enough, right? So these are all things that you discover in the sales conversation that allow you to actually only take on the most ideal clients, okay? It's totally fine. You don't have to, every single person that has a sales conversation with you, you don't have to even invite them to be your client, okay? If it's not a good fit, or if they're not ready for the change, if they're not ready to be committed and take action, and they're not inspired and they, are not motivated, you don't want that kind of a client, right? So it's for them and for you to have a sales conversation. It's serves you both, okay? It is not harming somebody or hurting somebody, okay? So it's just in your mind. Like I said earlier, if you're struggling with money, you may assume that everybody else is in the same boat as you, and you feel bad for them. You feel like, oh, well, if they pay me, then now they're going to be in a state of lack, right? But no, that's just you and your paradigm about life and what you've created. And you can't assume that other people see the world in that way, or have any lack, or that they don't have resources, right? When things are important to a person, they will go out of their way to make something happen. They're not just going to only do it if it's easy, right? Because this is something they're committed to changing. All right, number 9, someone in your life is directly in opposition to your success. Okay, if you are surrounded by family members or a partner that doesn't believe in what you do and is trying to sabotage you, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to be successful. Okay, now this is a big one. It's hugely emotional. But the truth is people's energy and how they look at you and what they want for you actually impacts you. There's this saying well, we don't really create in other people's lives. We're all responsible for everything that we do. But when you're in a situation like that, you are responsible to get out. You're responsible to, make a change. Okay. If you right now are married to somebody who does not believe in you, it's going to be very difficult for you to be successful. Right? So what is your responsibility to that? Your responsibility is to get yourself in marriage counseling to find out why that your partner does not respect you. Okay. And if at the end of the day, that partner isn't willing to do that, doesn't love you enough to go, doesn't respect you, why are you with that person? Think of how much farther you could get if you had somebody in your life that was constantly around you, who was acknowledging what you're doing, who believes in you, right? We all need that, somebody, preferably more than one person in our life that believes in us, right? Because we are wired to need approval, right? So if you're constantly getting disapproval, it's going to be lowering your vibe. It's going to make you continue to question yourself. Whatever they're thinking about you, you're going to be emotionally downloading. You're going to be feeling it, even if it's not intellectual. It's going to stop you from reaching the heights that are possible for you. You're going to be in a lower vibration. And in order to attract clients, you need to be in a high vibe, right? So a lot of people don't want to actually venture on that topic, right? Because it's painful. It means a lot of change in your life, right? And I know exactly what that's like. When I graduated from Holistic Nutrition School, the second one that I graduated from in 2007. So I graduated in 2006 from the Edison Institute, and then in 2007 from the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. Maybe it was 2005 was Edison. It doesn't matter. My mother-in-law actually took me aside privately, so nobody was there to defend me, and said, I just want to let you know that I do not validate your education. Okay, have you ever had somebody do that to you? Okay, you probably don't even have something that extreme, okay, that's happened. So you can imagine that obviously that doesn't feel good, okay, but you don't need to let that stop you. Okay, I didn't let it stop me, but the truth is that not too long after, I realized that I was having this exact same situation with my husband. He wasn't overtly questioning me or overtly trying to calm me down, but he was energetically not in support of the work that I did in the world. Okay, so I felt that enough by a level of disinterest, okay, in my work and in my life. And then it got to the point where he actually came out and said, I wish that you would not do what you did anymore. Okay, and that was the moment I said enough was enough. Okay, so if you're in that place, I want you to understand that I absolutely get it. And it is important that you change the relationships in your life if you don't have the support you need, because that can be years and years and years and years of being held back. Imagine being with a partner who believed in you, who respected you, who wanted to see you be successful. Okay, you need that. We all need it. You're human. Okay, so all of this other stuff is going to be even harder. Everything we already talked about mindset-wise, if you do not have support around you. Okay, so which is number 10. Okay, the reason why people struggle and are not successful is because they have a lack of the right kind of support. Okay, so I talked about a more internal support that you have in your internal systems. Okay, but then the other aspect of it is getting help from somebody else who has already been in your shoes, who's done what you want to do, who can actually walk you straight to where you need to go in the least steps possible, saving you time, saving you energy, saving you heartache. And that's essentially what a coach does, right? Now, if you expect your clients to invest in their health and them improving and getting better in life, it's going to be difficult for you to confidently ask them to do that if you've never done it for yourself, if you haven't gotten your own mentorship experience with someone else, right? Because it's sort of hypocritical, right? You're saying, you know, they should do it, they should get the help they need because obviously they're struggling. If you're struggling in business, then you need to also get the help that you need, okay? Now there's, you know, different levels of getting help, right? So right now I'm sharing with you about the Nourished Nutrition Business program, which is a group program. And there's benefits to private coaching versus group program. But you have to decide, you know, where you're at in the game. Do you need more community around you? Or do you need somebody like sitting with you as an individual, like laser focusing on your particular issues to help you through your blocks, right? That's only something that you can decide. But we all need support. If you think about, you know, anybody who's out there in the world today who's considered great at what they do, like Tiger Woods, for example, is a golfer. Do you think that he just got there without coaching or support? No. No, every single person who is amazing at what they do got there because they took the advice of somebody who already knew more because they'd already gone down that road and learned and passed that on to them. And then they continued to practice, right? They didn't give up, right? Like a lot of, and this could be, you know, bonus reason why people aren't successful in their business is that they give up too soon, right? And they don't practice enough. And they think that if they did it once and they failed, that means that it's not meant for them, okay? But the truth is that we all fail, but we have to get up and keep practicing, and then that's how we, you know, get better and better. So, you know, the ultimate reason why we fail in business is because we give up too soon. And they say that businesses don't fail, people quit. And I believe that's true. So if you have a passion for what you're doing, you have a story and you know that this is your life path, your God-ordained life path to serve and give back, then you just have to decide that you're going to do whatever it takes to become who you need to be successful so that you can walk this path powerfully and make a difference for yourself and others. All right. So I hope that's helped you to understand what's stopping you from being successful. Again, it was all mindset because that's the truth. The only thing that's in the way is your limited thinking or emotions that are you know, stuck in your energy body that are essentially driving patterns in your life. That's it. Okay. Once you overcome those, then it's actually a lot easier to take everything that you learn in the physical realm, like strategies, right? Things like that, they actually work once you've dealt with the emotional stuff. But when you're stuck in the emotional, and you will stay there if you don't get the support, okay? That's just how it works. If you knew how to get out, you'd get out already. Learning a whole bunch of business stuff without dealing with the mindset stuff means that you're not going to be able to implement the best tools that are out there, right? Because literally I could throw all of the tools in your lap, but you would have the wrong way of thinking. So you wouldn't be able to actually utilize those tools. Okay. So right now, if you're stuck in a place of feeling like, well, you know what to do, but you're not doing it. Okay. Then you know that it's truly what's standing in your way is mindset. Okay. So I'm going to share more with you about, tools, templates, tactics, systems, etc. moving forward. But I want to invite you now to recognize that you need some sort of support, whether that's myself or someone else, to help you with the mindset piece so that you can make use of what you learn moving forward. All right. And of course, so in the Nourished Nutrition Business Program, there is that level of emotional support that is included in the program. And of course, I'm also available for private business consulting to, hone in on, specific things that you're struggling with. But there's a lot of universal stuff that most people feel like is the stuff we covered in this video that we go deeper into in the Nourished Nutrition Business Program. All right. So thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to connecting with you in the next video. Bye for now.